He signed that paper thinking he was buying time, but in truth he was selling his heart. Picture this: a marriage certificate that began as black ink of a necessary lie, but transformed into the invisible chain that bound a heart he didn't know was surrendering itself. Her performance so convincing in its indifference that his growing fascination became a one-man theater, a devotion without reciprocation that he performed for an audience of one. The shared apartment like strangers, where each carefully maintained boundary became a wall he desperately wanted to tear down, while she built them even higher. His gradual realization that she wasn't just playing a role for immigration officials. She was playing one for him, and the script included scenes he should never have witnessed. Those small moments that seemed too real to be acting, her unconscious humming while she cooked, the way she touched his shoulder as she passed, gestures that suggested a woman forgetting her own performance. But here's what he didn't know, what none of us knew until it was too late. She wasn't just running from her past, she was running towards something that would destroy everything they had built together. Have you ever loved someone who was pretending to love you? Because what happened next will change everything you think you know about love, lies, and the dangerous space between truth and survival. His name was David Chen, 34 years old, successful immigration lawyer who thought he understood the system better than anyone. Her name? Well, that's where it gets complicated. The passport said Elena Martinez. The wedding certificate said Elena Martinez. But the woman who stood in his kitchen making coffee at 6 in the morning, humming a song in a language he didn't recognize, she might have been someone else entirely. It started as business, pure and simple. She needed a green card. He needed the money. $50,000 for 2 years of marriage. No emotions, no complications, just paperwork and periodic appearances to satisfy immigration requirements. His transformation from participant to believer began slowly. At first he noticed small things, how she arranged his books by color instead of alphabetically, how she always made enough coffee for 2 even when he had early meetings, how she left little notes by the door. "Have a good day," written in careful English handwriting. She would touch his hand during dinner when they practiced their story for immigration interviews. She would laugh at his jokes with genuine delight, but when the practice ended, she retreated to her room like a ghost dissolving at dawn. The immigration interviews that became confessions. Official questions about their relationship forced them to articulate feelings that blurred the line between performance and truth. "How did you meet?" became a rehearsed story told so many times it felt like memory. "What's your favorite thing about your husband?" became an answer that made her pause too long, looking at him with something that couldn't be faked. His discovery that she knew details about him that no actress should know. She knew he was afraid of thunderstorms because of a childhood accident. She knew he donated to animal shelters under a fake name because he was embarrassed about being sentimental. She knew he called his mother every Sunday at exactly 3 o'clock because it was the only time his father wasn't home to intercept the call. But there was something in her eyes, when she thought he wasn't looking, a flicker of something real, something terrified. The family dinner where lines dissolved completely, his relatives embracing her as the daughter-in-law they had always wanted, while she responded with warmth that seemed too natural to be manufactured. His grandmother, sharp as a blade at 82, pulling Elena aside after dessert. "You love him," she said. Not a question, a statement. Elena's face went white. It's complicated, Grandma Chen." The old woman smiled. "Love always is, dear, but lying about it makes it deadly." Her unconscious habits suggested permanence. She installed a small herb garden on the fire escape. Basil, rosemary, thyme, plants that needed months to mature. "For cooking," she explained when he asked. But her eyes said something else. Her eyes said, "For staying." His growing addiction to their shared space. The apartment smelled different when she was there. Not perfume, something warmer, like bread baking and old books and safety. He would stand in the doorway sometimes, just watching her read on the couch, completely absorbed in whatever story she was living in someone else's words. The photograph she forgot to throw away. A candid moment captured at their fake wedding, where her smile suggested someone who momentarily forgot she was pretending. In the picture, She was looking at him while he signed the registry. Not posed, not performed, just present. The night everything changed started like any other. She was grading English papers at the kitchen table. She tutored immigrant children for extra money, something she never mentioned in their original arrangement. He was working late when he heard her crying, not sobbing, just quiet tears that she was trying to muffle with her hand. He found her staring at a student's essay about my hero. The child had written about his mother, who worked 3 jobs to send money back to El Salvador while learning English at night. "She reminds me of someone I used to know," Elena whispered. Her voice broke on the last word. That's when he knew. She wasn't just forgetting to pretend anymore. She was remembering how to be real. And it was that night that he realized it wasn't just him who was forgetting this was all a lie. Her sleep-talking revealed names and places that didn't exist in the immigration biography. "No, Miguel, you promised," she whispered one Tuesday night, thrashing in her bed on the other side of the thin wall. "The money was supposed to be clean. Maria doesn't know. She can't know." Phone calls she answered in languages he didn't recognize. Conversations that ended abruptly when she realized he was listening, switching to English with theatrical casualness. "Yes, Mom, I'm fine." "No, the weather here is beautiful." But her hands would shake afterward, and she would disappear into her room for hours. Her reaction to certain news stories betrayed knowledge of things she should know nothing about. When the local news mentioned a drug bust in Miami, her face went ash-gray. When a report about witness protection surfaced, she left the room so fast she knocked over her coffee mug. David hired a private investigator after the 4th month of marriage. He told himself it was due diligence. But the truth was darker. He was falling in love with a woman who might not exist, and he needed to know whether the person sharing his life was victim or predator. The investigator's initial report was devastating. Subject demonstrates sophisticated knowledge of document fabrication. Identity appears to be professionally constructed with multiple layers of authentication. This is not amateur work. When the fever broke her defenses completely, Elena collapsed on a Tuesday evening, her body burning with a temperature that made her delirious. For 3 days, David watched over her as she spoke in fragments that revealed the woman behind the performance. "I never wanted to hurt anyone," she whispered, gripping his hand with surprising strength. "Tell Carmen I tried to keep her safe. Tell her the money was for her daughter's school." Caring for her revealed vulnerabilities that no amount of acting could fabricate. The way she curled into his chest when fever dreams frightened her. How she trusted him to feed her soup when she was too weak to hold the spoon. On the 3rd night, when her fever finally broke, he sat beside her bed and said the words he'd been swallowing for months. "I love you, Elena. I know this wasn't supposed to happen, but I love you." Her response wasn't words. It was tears that came from somewhere deeper than performance, deeper than fear. The morning after intimacy changed everything. She woke up in his arms, her face peaceful in a way he'd never seen. For exactly 7 minutes, she let herself be happy. She made breakfast wearing his shirt, singing softly in that unknown language, moving around their kitchen like she belonged there. Her immediate retreat into renewed performance convinced him the connection was real while terrifying her with its implications. The overcompensation was brutal to watch. She became aggressively distant, speaking to him in formal tones, avoiding his eyes. But she couldn't erase the way she had said his name in the dark. The stranger at their door knew her real name. It was a Sunday morning, and Elena was making pancakes while David read the newspaper. The knock came at exactly 10 o'clock, sharp, insistent, military. Elena froze with the spatula halfway to the pan. When David opened the door, the man standing there was unremarkable. Medium height, grey suit, forgettable face. But his eyes were Arctic cold, and when he spoke, Elena made a sound like she'd been shot. "Hello, Isabella," he said, looking past David directly at her. "We need to talk." Isabella, not Elena. Isabella Santos Martinez, born in São Paulo, Brazil, disappeared from federal protection 3 years ago after testifying against the Mendoza cartel. "We've been looking for you for a very long time." David felt the world tilt sideways. Federal protection, cartel testimony. The woman he had married, the woman he had fallen in love with, was a protected witness who had violated the most fundamental rule of her safety. She had stopped running. The key hidden in her jewelry box told a story she had never mentioned. After the stranger left, David searched their apartment with desperate thoroughness. The key opened a safety deposit box downtown. Inside, documents that rewrote everything he thought he knew about her. Birth certificates, court transcripts, photographs of a younger version of her testifying in a courtroom, and cash. More cash than David had ever seen in one place. The newspaper clipping explained everything and nothing. 3 years old, from the Miami Herald. Key witness in cartel trial disappears following death threats. The article described Isabella Santos Martinez as a former accounting student who had discovered evidence of money laundering at her part-time job. Her testimony had helped convict 15 members of one of the most violent criminal organizations in South America. The cartel had put $1 million bounty on her head. She wasn't running from justice. She was running from vengeance. She found him reading the article at their kitchen table at 2 in the morning. She didn't try to deny it. She just stood in the doorway in her pajamas, looking like someone who had been expecting this moment for 3 years. "His name is Marcus Vega," she said quietly. "He's the one who killed the other witnesses, 3 of them so far. I was supposed to disappear completely, but I got tired of running. I thought maybe if I hid in plain sight in a fake marriage, they would stop looking." Her voice was steady, but her hands shook. "I wasn't a traitor to the system. I was a woman caught between impossible choices, trying to save the only family I had left." She showed him the photograph in her locket, a girl no older than 16 with Isabella's eyes and smile. "Carmen Santos Martinez, my younger sister. She was kidnapped the day after I entered witness protection. The cartel's message was clear. Testify and your sister dies. Run and she dies. But cooperate. Provide just enough information to help us stay one step ahead of the investigators, and she lives." Isabella had been playing both sides for 3 years, feeding minimal information to the cartel, while helping federal prosecutors build cases against the foot soldiers, walking a tightrope between salvation and damnation. Her complete confession came in pieces over 3 days. She told him about Carmen first, the sister who had raised her after their parents died, the brilliant girl who was going to be a doctor. "She's everything good that I used to be," Isabella whispered. "Before I learned that being good gets the people you love killed." The federal agents arrived on a Tuesday morning. "We know she's here," Agent Martinez said gently. "We're not here to arrest her. We're here to offer her a deal." The agents offered witness protection again. New identity, new location, new life. But this time, they wanted her to testify about the information network she had been part of while in hiding. The price was brutal. Complete cooperation meant David would be considered a potential security risk. They would have to divorce immediately. He would be relocated given a new identity, forbidden from contacting her ever again. "I won't let them hurt you because of me," she told David that night. They were sitting on their fire escape, looking at the herb garden she had planted months ago. "I should have left the day I realized I was falling in love with you." David took her hand. "What if we fought back? What if instead of running we made them stop chasing?" Her smile was the saddest thing he had ever seen. "Baby," she said, and it was the first time she had ever called him anything but his name. "You can't fight people who think murder is a business expense." But David was a lawyer, and lawyers understood that the most powerful weapon against criminals wasn't violence, it was making their crimes unprofitable. His decision to stay with her despite everything came at 3 in the morning on a Thursday. Isabella was asleep, finally peaceful after weeks of terror and planning. David realized that loving someone wasn't about knowing everything about them. It was about choosing them, even when you discovered they were human, complicated, scared, imperfect. Isabella had lied about her name, her past, her reasons for needing him, but she had never lied about trying to protect the people she loved. She had never lied about becoming someone better in the safety of his presence. David contacted the private investigator and made a proposal. Instead of just gathering information about Isabella's past, what if they gathered information about everyone who was hunting her? What if they built a case so comprehensive that prosecuting the cartel became more profitable than protecting them. Isabella's transformation from fugitive to fighter happened gradually, then all at once. She contacted the federal prosecutors not as someone seeking protection, but as someone offering a trade. Her complete cooperation in exchange for resources to rescue Carmen and prosecute everyone who had made their lives hell. The immigration hearing became a trial of the heart. What should have been a routine review of their marriage became a public examination of whether love could grow from deception and still be real. "Mr. Chen," the judge asked, "you entered into this marriage knowing it was fraudulent. Why should this court believe that your feelings are now genuine?" David looked at Isabella, who was trying not to cry. "Your Honor," he said, "I married a woman named Elena Martinez who didn't exist. But I fell in love with Isabella Santos, who is the strongest, most compassionate, most courageous person I have ever met. She lied about her name. She lied about her past. But she never lied about trying to become someone worthy of the safety I offered her." Isabella stood up. Her voice was clear and strong. "My name is Isabella Santos Martinez. I have been hiding from people who want to kill me for 3 years. I married this man because I needed protection. But I love him because he saw the person I was trying to become and decided she was worth fighting for." She paused, looking directly at the judge. "I don't know if our marriage is legal, but I know that this man taught me the difference between surviving and living, and I choose living." When the judge returned, the decision was swift. Their marriage would be considered valid but conditional. Isabella would remain under federal protection, but she could choose her own handler, she could choose where to live, and she could choose whether to maintain her marriage while cooperating with ongoing investigations. 6 months later, Carmen Santos Martinez stepped off a plane at JFK International Airport. The cartel operatives who had held her were serving life sentences in federal prison. Isabella cried when she saw her sister. Not the quiet, controlled tears she had shed in hiding, but the loud, messy, joyful tears of someone who had finally stopped running long enough to be found by the people who loved her. When Carmen finally looked at David, she smiled and said something in Portuguese. "What did she say?" David asked later. Isabella took his hand. "She said you look exactly like the man I described in my letters, someone worth fighting for." Because sometimes the greatest truth emerges from the most necessary deception. Sometimes you have to pretend to be married before you can learn how to really love someone. And sometimes the most authentic connection grows from the most artificial beginning. Because sometimes the most real love is born from the most necessary lie. And when two souls find each other, not even the truth can separate them. This story touched your heart. Have you ever loved someone who was hiding secrets? Tell us in the comments, because here every love story deserves to be heard.